Believe it or not, the first written record of strange happenings in the Bermuda Triangle can be found in the ship's log of Christopher Columbus. Lying becalmed in the Sargasso Sea, Columbus and his men witnessed strange lights dancing above and below the surface of the water. Little did they know that that would be among the most harmless of the events that would terrorize vessels in the Bermuda Triangle. The Mary Celeste was found floating adrift on the open sea. The vessel seemed to be in perfect condition, but the passengers and crew had disappeared without a trace. What happened to the 20-ton barge that should have been on the other end of this line? Did Flight 19, 5 Grumman bombers, really get lost flying from Fort Lauderdale to Bermuda? Or is there something else at work in this troubled part of the Atlantic Ocean? Could it be that the lost continent of Atlantis has something to do with the lost ships and planes of the Bermuda Triangle? What is it that grips pilots and seamen alike with a cold fear as they traverse these mysterious waters? From Columbus's day to our own, these and many other strange, unexplained anomalies have haunted this triangular piece of the Atlantic Ocean. Is there some rational explanation? Can we unravel the secret of the Bermuda Triangle?
We all go through life accepting what textbooks told us about the universe. But what happens when questions are raised about many of our fundamental beliefs? A mystery that cannot be explained. An enigma that defies reason. A surprising and unexpected answer. To encounter such a mystery firsthand may change your life forever. Face to face with the greatest riddles of the ages, the world's most profound mysteries reach out and touch your life in ways you've never imagined possible. Encounters with the Unexplained.
In today's sophisticated society, many people tend to dismiss the so-called mystery of the Bermuda Triangle in the same way they would a superstition or a fairy tale. But unlike harmless fairy tales, the strange happenings in the Bermuda Triangle often result in loss of life, not to mention the enormous property losses. Given the growing body of evidence that something sinister, something well beyond our understanding is going on there, it seems the better part of wisdom to try and discover the truth behind the so-called legends of the Bermuda Triangle. To many, the Bermuda Triangle is nothing more than the nickname given to an area of the mid-Atlantic, roughly cornered by Florida, Puerto Rico, and the island of Bermuda. But is there something more? Is this relatively small piece of the Atlantic in some way different from other parts of our planet's oceans? According to those who study the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle, there have been over 1,000 vanishings of everything from huge naval vessels to private boats, from small planes to commercial airliners since 1945 alone. And of course, not only the craft disappear forever, but all the people on board them as well.
I think the most spectacular mystery about the Devil's Triangle is probably one of the ones that's more played down than any other, and that's the disappearance of the Navy ship USS Cyclops. This was a 500-foot, 19,000-ton coaling ship, and this took place during World War I. Back then they had coal ships instead of tankers because most of the ships operated on coal. Well, this ship put to sea from Barbados in the British West Indies bound for Norfolk, Virginia. It was never seen again. The ship and the 300 officers and men disappeared without a trace.
Some claim that violent weather in the region is responsible, that sudden squalls have downed aircraft and sailing ships alike, sending them in moments to the bottom of the sea. Others, however, suggest a far more sinister force is at work. From the old Spanish Admiralty records that Columbus wrote, we learn that he was the first to record the strange and frightening images in the night sky over what we now call the Sargasso Sea. We can only guess at the nameless dread that must have filled the hearts of those intrepid seamen lost in a strange and frightening world. But from his log and reports, we know that the Columbus expedition encountered the same mysterious phenomena in the Bermuda Triangle that continues to haunt us even at the dawn of the 21st century. Columbus also recorded that the island natives, like the Caribs and the Arawaks of Puerto Rico, were long familiar with strange occurrences in this part of the world. Their legends contain many stories of sky gods and green fireboats that could fly in the sky or under the water. These natives wouldn't think of identifying these strange occurrences as unidentified flying objects, but modern observers have difficulty calling them anything else.
I myself have only had one experience on the Devil's Triangle, and that was in the southeastern Bahamas when I saw, or thought I saw, a lighthouse that wasn't there. Aside from that, I have not experienced anything unusual. But I've known people who've seen what they refer to as UFOs, green glows coming out of the sky and crashing into the water and disappearing down into the depths. And they referred to them as UFOs, and I guess that's what they were, UFOs. UFO doesn't necessarily mean flying saucer. UFO is unidentified flying object, and that is exactly what they were, unidentified flying objects. We don't know what they were.
I was sitting on the beach in Bimini one night when I looked towards Miami, Florida, and I saw a red light acting really erratic in the sky. So I took off my glasses and I cleaned them to see if there was anything on the lenses. There wasn't. So as far as I'm concerned, it was a UFO because I couldn't identify it.
But as strange as this and other stories may be, they pale in comparison to the more terrifying aspect of the Bermuda Triangle. The history of strange disappearances, the list of ships reported lost, the stories of ghostly derelicts, and the accounts of aircraft seemingly snatched from the skies is staggering. And virtually every lost vessel represents an appalling loss of life. One of the most famous lost aircraft cases is that of Flight 19, 5 aircraft that vanished together shortly after World War II. It's also the story that gives us the first clues linking the Bermuda Triangle to some sort of time-space vortex.
The Naval Air Station at Fort Lauderdale, Florida, was the scene of one of the most spectacular mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. It began routinely enough on December 5th, 1945. An advanced training flight was scheduled for takeoff at 1400 hours. 5 pilots and 10 crew members were scheduled to go up. Ironically, their course was to be a simple triangle with an expected flight time of 2 hours. The flight leader was Lieutenant Charles Taylor, an experienced combat pilot with over 2,500 hours of flying time. Flight 19 had completed the first leg of the flight plan and turned north. Suddenly, all of the aircraft began experiencing problems with their instruments.
This is Foxtrot 28, calling Foxtrot 36. My instruments have gone crazy.
Some 40 miles away, Lieutenant Robert Cox, a training instructor, picked up their transmissions, but for some reason they couldn't hear him. Cox called the base station in Fort Lauderdale, and immediately emergency procedures went into effect. Base operations continued to receive Lieutenant Cox's transmissions, which told them Flight 19 was lost and disoriented, but they could not get through to Taylor or any of his pilots. Ham radio operators up and down the coast were also tuned into the lost flight and monitored their frequency. Then, as night fell, one of them caught the last words to ever be heard from Flight 19.
Don't come after us! They look like...
What could have been going on that persuaded Lieutenant Taylor that any rescue attempt would be useless? Meanwhile, according to Berlitz, a huge search and rescue mission had already been launched. But then, the first plane to respond to the emergency, a giant Martin Mariner with a crew of 13, disappeared from radar.
In the end, Flight 19 and the Martin Mariner, 28 men in all, disappeared without a trace, as if they had passed through some window into another dimension.
According to Berlitz, the Naval Board of Inquiry attributed the disappearance to malfunctioning navigational equipment that caused the planes to run out of fuel far out at sea. But is it really possible for this to have happened to all 6 planes simultaneously? Berlitz goes on to say that one member of the Board of Inquiry was quoted as saying, "Flight 19 vanished as completely as if they had flown to Mars." For over 40 years, the disappearance of Flight 19 from a Fort Lauderdale air base in the mid-1940s has been written off as just another of the many Bermuda Triangle anomalies. But could there be a completely different explanation? Could it be there are experiments going on that someone wants us to think are the work of aliens? Is there another Area 51 located in or near the Bermuda Triangle? Is it even remotely conceivable that officials are promoting the idea of aliens in order to cover up what is really going on? Few people would deny that many strange and unexplainable events have taken place in the Bermuda Triangle. The question is, what is the cause of all these strange vanishings? Is this part of the Earth's surface some kind of anomalous energy-time vortex? Or could it be something else?
Puerto Rico is a continual hotspot for UFO activity, and it has been for years. UFOs being seen and photographed going in and out of the water just off the coast of Puerto Rico. Intense activity near a U.S. naval base there called Roosevelt Roads. And the Navy, of course, is very mum about this sort of thing. They don't say very much about it, but it's continuous. For example, there is a beautiful mountain in Puerto Rico in the middle of a tropical rainforest called El Yunque. For some interesting reason, it has continually been a spot of intense UFO activity. And when I was there with an investigator friend of mine, who I highly regard and highly respect, we went up on top of El Yunque. This place is swarming with Wackenhut security. Now, it's interesting to note that Wackenhut Security is also the organization that provides the security at Groom Lake, Site 51, Dreamland, near Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. Why are they all over El Yunque in Puerto Rico?
Why, indeed. After all, it seems highly unlikely that aliens would need the protection of the Wackenhut Security Force. Yet something out of the ordinary definitely seems to be going on in the region.
Sightings of UFOs are quite common in the Bermuda Triangle. There have also been numerous accounts about disc-shaped UFOs under the water in the same way as they perform in the air.
Richard Weiner, author of The Devil's Triangle, relates a case that seems to corroborate these underwater activities. In his book, he tells of a charter boat operator named John Carpenter and of his remarkable experience in the Bermuda Triangle. Carpenter apparently saw 2 craft exploring the water with some sort of projecting energy beam. Carpenter then saw exactly what so many others had reported seeing. Carpenter's experience would seem to confirm that whatever it is that's churning up excitement in the Bermuda Triangle, it goes through the water or through the air with equal ease. Is the beam that Carpenter saw coming from the craft a clue linking these craft to the disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle?
Perhaps these incidents are taking place in the Bermuda Triangle in such numbers because they are close to home. Many theorists believe that alien entities have been visiting Earth for thousands of years. Some even believe they may have found a culture here that was far in advance of those elsewhere on Earth. According to the ancient story, all of Atlantis went to the bottom of the sea after some natural catastrophe 12,000 years ago. Perhaps this was the Atlantis that has become